Hello, beautiful. I'm Amy Errett, founder of Madison Reed, a hair color company I named after my daughter. One of the things I value most in life is time. Time to spend with my daughter, time to spend with family, and the time I put into my company that's reinventing the way women color their hair. The busiest, most successful women I know use Madison Reed, the amazing hair color hack. In under an hour and for less than $25, Madison Reed delivers gorgeous, shiny, multi-dimensional, healthy-looking hair with an ammonia-free formula. You'll look like you just came from a salon, but the reality is you have more me time to do what you love. Things get busy. Let us take care of you and your hair. Find your perfect shade at madison-reed.com and get 10% off plus free shipping on your first color kit. Use code VALUE. That's code VALUE. Try it. Love it. That's the beauty of Madison Reed.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Truth and Justice. This is your Friday follow-up episode for episode number 504, Mr. Bojangles. I'm your host, Bob Ruff.
And I'm your co-host, Mike Bussing.
In this week's Friday follow-up, we have a lot of ground to cover. In the main episode, episode 504, we covered a lot about Bojangles, but there are still a lot of gaps to be filled in.
Yep, that's right. And the listeners have come through and asked the questions to fill in those gaps.
All right, well, since we have a lot of ground to cover, we're not going to mess around too much here. We're going to get started. We're going to take a quick break here to hear from one of our sponsors, and then we'll get right into your questions. Today's episode is sponsored in part by Harry's Razors.
I've been shaving with Harry's for over a year now, and I can't imagine going to another brand of razors.
Yeah, me neither, and neither can anyone in my family. Myself, my wife, my stepson, my stepdaughter, we all use Harry's razors, and everybody absolutely loves them. The only conflict we have around here is fighting over who gets which handle. We've got green handles, blue handles, orange handles, and even the new chrome handle that I got in my holiday gift set. But there's one thing that everyone in my family can agree on, and that Harry's is the closest, best shave any of us have ever had. And at about half the cost of drugstore razors, you've really got nothing to lose here. And one of my favorite parts about Harry's is that they last forever. The blades are of such high quality, you get that close shave even after using it 5 or 6 times.
You already know that Harry's makes amazing quality products at a super reasonable price. But did you also know that it's a practical gift that your guy will get a lot of use of?
Everybody knows that guys are hard to shop for, and guilty as charged, I drive my wife crazy when she's trying to figure out what to get me for Christmas or birthdays or anything else. But I guarantee you that a Harry's gift set is a gift that any guy will absolutely love. And you can even personalize it to make it feel special for him. You can choose a color that's right for him, and now they even have the limited edition holiday colors. Harry's has special gift sets that fit his special needs, and they even have a box for guys that already use Harry's. And don't forget, they also have a personal engraving option to let him know that you put a lot of thought into a gift that he's going to love and actually use, unlike the collection of ties he's got laying on the floor of his closet. In this holiday, Harry's is offering custom and limited edition shaving sets that make perfect gifts. These gift sets were built with your guy in mind, so you know that he's going to love them. The sets come with German-engineered 5-blade cartridges that provide close, comfortable shave, foaming shave gel that smells amazing, and a special limited edition winter chrome and emerald green handle that you can even personalize with engraving. No matter what you're looking for, Harry's has got you covered. Sets come ready to gift in a beautifully designed gift box, and gift sets start at just $10. They make great stocking stuffers.
And you can even get something for yourself with Harry's.
So here's the deal. Harry's has a special offer just for our listeners. We've partnered with Harry's for a couple of years now, and they want to give you $5 off your order when you go to harrys.com/justice. Now, this offer is only available for the holidays. This holiday, give Harry's and give handsome. Get your holiday shopping done early and take advantage of free shipping. To get a limited edition holiday shave set while supplies last, go to harrys.com/justice right now. That's harrys.com/justice.
All right, let's get started. Sarah wrote to us, the cops are called to investigate suspicious activity at a fast food restaurant. So the responding officer goes through the drive-thru. Was this officer ever questioned at all about why she didn't write a report or, I don't know, go inside?
She was at trial, and she just kind of explained it away as the fact that she just didn't connect the two. And like I said in the main episode, you got to consider that there are two sides to this. It's really easy in hindsight to beat up on Regina Meek. And to be honest, she really should have made a report no matter what. But you have to remember, she just gets a call, and a couple of parents say their kids are out wandering the neighborhood and they haven't come home yet. At that point, there's really no alarm bells going off. Certainly no one knows that they've been murdered or are going to be murdered. It's just a couple of kids that didn't come home when they were supposed to. Now, should they have taken it more seriously? Sure. But keep in mind, from Regina Meek's perspective, that's all it is. These kids might just be hanging out at a friend's house or something. Well, then she gets this call to this drive-thru, and the complaint was that there was this man there that was acting suspicious and was in the women's bathroom, and they wanted him to leave, and he wouldn't. Well, when she shows up and they say the guy already left, as far as she was concerned, it was case closed. There was really nothing for her to do. They weren't going to go run DNA testing and all of that stuff to try to track down the guy that happened to wander into the bathroom. Now, again, with hindsight, now that we know that there was a murder 3/4 of a mile down the bayou, this looks like some glaring incompetence. But keep in mind that at the time, no one knew that was going to happen. So, like I said in the episode, and like I'll say it again now, yes, she should have went in and should have taken a report. But that being said, her pulling up to the drive-thru and the manager telling her the man had already left, I can completely see why someone might say, well, I guess I've got other things to take care of. This guy's already gone.
Okay, and then Nina writes, if the perpetrator of the crime had gone to such lengths to cover up the crime scene, would Mr. Bojangles have so carelessly left behind so much evidence in the restroom if he were the guilty party?
Well, the two don't really seem to fit. I mean, there's a lot of things that could be happening there. I mean, we have blood loss. There could be traumatic shock. There's a lot of things that could have happened between when the crime occurred and when Mr. Bojangles wandered into the bathroom. But that being said, it's really hard to reconcile the two. I mean, you have a meticulous offender who meticulously covered up the crime scene and concealed the bodies and all the evidence and almost left nothing behind to be found. And then 30 minutes later or so, you've got the same guy that walks into the women's restroom and sits there and leaves a mess, doesn't clean anything up behind. His blood is all over the place and doesn't seem to react when he's told that if he doesn't leave, the police are going to be called. Not until the second time after the police actually were called does he get up and just wander away. So, yeah, it's really hard to reconcile the two, but we don't know what would have happened in between there either. But I agree, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And then Kelly says to us, given Mr. Bojangles' state of mind, maybe he witnessed the crime.
Several people have brought this up, and it's a possibility, but I think we always come back to that timeline, which I think we're going to get into in more detail here as we move along. But regardless if he witnessed or if he was involved or even if he was a victim, which I think a few people have brought up, you still have to deal with that timeline. Could anyone make that walk in the amount of time allowed, in 30 minutes or less? And could they do it without being completely soaked from going in the bayou or the other drainage ditches that feed into the bayou? And in my opinion, it seems really unlikely.
Yeah, and there was definitely some discussion, like you just mentioned, of Mr. Bojangles maybe being the fourth victim of the crime.
Yeah, I don't think that's completely out of the question, but again, we've got that timeline to deal with.
Okay, Pamela writes, did the cops think to check with the ER or local doctors to find out if anyone came in with a bleeding forearm?
As far as I know, I know there's no record of that ever happening. They could have. I've just never seen any documentation that they did. Personally, I doubt it. I mean, they didn't even bother to actually preserve the evidence or have it tested that they did have. I don't think they really had any interest in Mr. Bojangles. And in this week's episode, you'll see that some other leads came up that I think had them distracted to where they kind of put Mr. Bojangles on the back burner.
All right, in an email from Zach, he writes, in the early 90s, there was a crack cocaine epidemic sweeping the nation, with Memphis, Tennessee seeing a raise in murder rate corresponding with the epidemic, peaking in 1993. Long story short, he says, my belief is that Mr. Bojangles was a junkie in the wrong place at the wrong time. What are your thoughts, Bob?
I think that Zach is onto something here. And at the end of the episode, when I walk through, as promised, my theory on Mr. Bojangles, we'll get into that a little bit more. But at this point, I'll just say I think Zach's real close to hitting this one right on the head.
Okay, and then Brady asks, which statements were given at which time by the Bojangles manager? Was the Muddy Shoes version during his testimony and the non-Muddy Shoes version to the police? Was he told to add to his former statement?
So the first we hear about Muddy Shoes is at trial. In the original report that was taken on May 6th in that evening, we see nothing about any mud. Remember I said the word mud's not even in that report anywhere. But at trial, he very vividly describes asking the detective, or the detectives asking him, did he have mud on his shoes looks like this? And pointed to their own feet. And he says, yes. Well, for starters, we don't know what their feet looked like. Had they cleaned their feet off and just had a little bit of mud on their shoes? Were they completely coated in mud? We don't know. But it does seem odd that it wasn't even mentioned back in 1993, but then in 94 at the trial, all of a sudden there's all this mud to clean up. As far as was he told to change that? There's no way of knowing that. I would hope not. But and it could be, a lot of it could be confirmation bias. He starts seeing things on the news and reading more about what happened. He knows they were found in a muddy ditch bank, and maybe he kind of, not even intentionally, but you tend to kind of fill in gaps with memories and kind of create new memories, but create a new truth. But also keep in mind that if that happened, it wasn't the prosecution that did that. Marty King was a defense witness. The Bojangles man at both trials was presented as an alternate suspect by the defense. So actually adding the mud helped the defense hurt the prosecution. So if that happened, it would have been the defense lawyers, and it would have happened in both trials. I think really probably seems unlikely. I mean, he was friends with a bunch of cops. I don't think that, the defense attorneys are going to go tell him to, change his stories to help them out. I think that either it just wasn't significant enough for him to mention back at the original report, or he just kind of filled in those gaps and kind of created those memories, and as time went on, or it could have been that he talked to some of his police buddies and he told them that he was going to be a witness for the defense, and maybe they suggested it. But I honestly don't think there's anything nefarious going on here. I think the guy was just trying to do his best to recall things as best as he could. Even the timeline stuff, same thing. It hurts the prosecution for his timeline to be moved back. That gives more opportunity, a larger window of opportunity. So for him to be wrong about that only helps the defense. It hurts the prosecution. So I really don't see anything nefarious or anything like that going on here. I think the guy's just doing his best to remember, and he got a little confused, which happens.
All right, Mandy has a question for us. Why on earth was the restaurant manager's first inclination to tell a disoriented, bleeding man to get out? How about call a freaking ambulance?
In a way, yeah, it's strange, and it seems a bit heartless, but I think that maybe this goes back to Zach's email, where he mentioned the crack epidemic at the time. And I've done a little bit of research on it, not too much, but it was a thing. There was a lot of crime in West Memphis, an unusually high crime rate and drug rate. Crack was a big problem. So it very well could be that Mr. Bojangles was not the first guy to stumble into that restaurant and even be bleeding or anything else like that. So it could be something they were more used to. There was some compassion by Marty King, I guess, in the fact that he gave the guy some time to leave before he called the police. He told him if he doesn't go, he's going to call the police, gives him a little bit of time. But also keep in mind that when he asked the guy if he was all right, the guy tells him that he's okay. So there certainly could have been more to that conversation than we know, but he says specifically the man told him, I'm okay. So, that conversation could have been, you all right? Do you need an ambulance or something? Do you need to go to the hospital? Guy says, I'm okay. He's all right. Well, you need to leave. You're a mess and you're in the women's bathroom. So that could be part of it too. We only get such a small picture, and it's easy in a lot of these cases, in any of these situations, to pick out tiny little details, which is what we do. It's what we're good at. It's what helps solve crimes. But remember, we're doing this all in hindsight, knowing the rest of the big picture, where all Marty King knew was that it's getting close to closing time of the restaurant. There's a woman and a daughter upset because there's some dude in the bathroom. He asks him if he's okay. He says he is, and he's not leaving. So he's like, all right, I'm going to get the police here to get him out of there.
Gretchen wants to know, why was the women's bathroom in the restaurant cleaned up before police arrived?
Well, remember, it wasn't. It was cleaned up before the detectives arrived on May 6th. But Marty King had no idea that the police were coming back. He called the police. By the time Regina Meek gets there, the man had left. She comes up to the drive-thru and